So no rules, Netflix and the culture of reinvention by retastings and any minor. So it talks about the company culture that Netflix actually has. The key thing is they're like, okay, hard work is irrelevant, be radically honest, and never ever try to please your boss. It might actually sound something weird for us as business owners. Like, do we actually want to have people who please us? But let's say that if we did have those kind of people, so what would actually happen? If we have that, then we can easily end up in a situation where everyone is just giving answers that please us, which means that in the end we are not getting honesty. We are not getting like valuable input, because let's say that something has gone wrong with product listing, or there's some issues. There's some issue like we are doing a product launch, but maybe some employee knows already something that, okay, I mean, this is going to be a pretty like negative impact in terms of the product launch. And let's say that the person doesn't tell us, because I mean, they just want to please us. They just want to tell us that, yes, boss, I mean, everything is going great. I mean, that's catastrophic, because I mean, then I mean, imagine we go ahead with the launch, and then something goes wrong, and all the time there was this one person who knew that this is going to happen, but they just decided to ignore it, and they just decided that, okay, I'm not going to tell the boss, because I mean, I just want the boss to be happy and please the boss. So that's the thing, that we don't want people, or I especially, I mean, I don't want people who just try to please me and give me answers that I actually want. Leaders should really, in innovative industries, should focus on hiring top talent, encouraging them to be honest, and then to remove controls and procedures to let their employees produce their best work. But hey, I mean, let's be real here, that if we're just hiring, if you're just starting out and we are hiring like virtual, like remote employees, I mean, what is the likelihood that we are gonna attract like the top talent for our little startup? I mean, it's not very likely, is it? So instead, it actually comes down to being able to move these people like to the potential that they can actually be. Which means that in many cases, I would actually have a bunch of C players that are like easy to deal with, easy to work with, easy to kind of like, if they have their right mindset right, I would much rather have this C player bunch than actually one A player that can be really difficult, that would be really difficult to manage, and wrong kind of mindset. Of course, I mean, you could argue that, I mean, if person has mindset issue, then they are not really A player, are they? Yeah, that's spot on, because mindsets and core values, I mean, that's such a critical thing in terms of the performance of that employee. Because I would take these less skillful people if they are coachable and if they have the right mindset. Because if they have the right mindset, then I will be able to actually get the maximum out of them. And of course, it means that if they are not really that skillful, then I need to introduce more control and more basically manage them with a lot more effort than someone that would be better developed. But I mean, that's not really a bad way necessarily, because it just means that you first of all have a lot of communication with the people, and you have a lot of systems in place. You have a lot of things to prevent things from going wrong. But main thing would actually be like short feedback loop, and for these people to be something that that they can be actually developed. Number one thing, or one thing that they have at Netflix is to lead with context instead of control. And in terms of like spending money, I think, well, they started with this because they had a like background in different companies. I mean, the founders. So when they started with this Netflix, they wanted to have that. Okay, I mean, there's no rules at all. But eventually there came a bit of a chaos. So they started like developing this more of ways like how people should behave, and how it would be more like a sports team, and it would be more like this kind of lean startup where the people are really driven and motivated, are eager and passionate to get things done. So number two, build stunning colleagues, and then give and receive candid feedback. And I would say this is actually one of the most important lessons that we can take from Netflix. And it's definitely the one that I want to have in my company, because I'm sure you know plenty of people, and maybe sometimes that we have like business partners who don't like to hear a certain way of getting feedback. And of course, I mean, we could write this whole Bible of, okay, here's like the rules how we are allowed to communicate with each other. And we might have good intentions that yeah, I mean, we want to have the most effective communication. So let's just write all sorts of rules or values and whatnot, how we can communicate together. So let's just assume like two types of companies. So first company is that they have this they have this Bible on how people are expected to communicate, meaning that, yeah, they have to be polite all the time. They cannot be harsh at all, or they cannot, like some people don't like the word why. And it's actually also used in this never split difference method by Chris Voss, that when you use the why, when you use the word why, like, why did you do this? Why did you do that? Why did you do that? I mean, it kind of feel as offense to some people, because I mean, it might bring people back to childhood where the parent is yelling, or teacher is saying that, why did you broke this glass? Like, who broke this glass? Like, why did you do it? And so on. So let's say that, okay, company A has all these bunch of rules that you're not allowed to use certain words, or you have to avoid. And if you want to give feedback, you have to, maybe you will have like 3 steps for that. That, yeah, you need to focus on the output, and you need to really give positive feedback first, and to sugarcoat it so the person doesn't feel too bad. So I mean, we might have the company A might have good intentions, and they end up in this like maybe a bit mechanical way of how people are allowed to communicate. And let's say if someone actually violates it, then you would all the time like refer that, hey, you're not following our communication rules, so that's not okay what you just said. Versus, let's actually take company B. They have no rules for communication other than, I mean, you are not allowed to be offensive or get personal. I mean, that's common sense, because I mean, obviously companies should be like, are expected to behave like adults, meaning that there's no biggery, or there's no nonsense, there's no drama or whatever. And then you are when you actually give feedback, it has to be something concrete, what they can do to actually improve. So what do you think, like, which company is more effective at the end of the day? Sure, we can say that the company with the Bible of behavioral rules could be more like appropriate or whatever. But I mean, you could argue that it's more difficult work or live in that second company where people can actually tell you like pretty harsh feedback and give it directly without actually sugarcoating. So, I mean, obviously, yeah, emotionally, it can be more harder to be on the second type of company, which doesn't have any like these rules or obligation in terms of how you communicate. But if you're actually focusing on your own growth and on your output and your own performance instead of just thinking like if we solely focus on the output and growth and performance, then odds are that, I mean, second type of company would actually be better.
I think that because there are so many different kinds of people working, so as a business owner, maybe you should work like in specific ways with each of your employees when you know them. Like you can't act the same with everyone. If you know that some person is like very sensitive, you work more sensitively with that person, and when someone else is more direct, you can speak more directly with him. So I
That's
think,
yeah,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
you should adjust, like change your attitude and ways you're speaking with different kinds of people.
Yes, that's a very good point, but Eva, let me ask you that. Do you want your employees to adapt to your company culture, or vice versa, that you actually adapt for every single person? Which one?
Yes, that's quite true. And of course, if you have just few employees, it's easier. But if you like have more than 10 employees, it's more difficult to adapt to them. So I understand your point also. Yeah.
But I mean, what basically you're saying, it goes to the basics of people management. That I mean, you might treat some people more sensitively and so on. But if we come back to that, hey, if we treat this from the perspective of business owner, I mean, we actually have the like 100% of control, and it comes back down to that. What is the type of company culture that we actually want to build? The way I have seen it and the way that I have done it is that, no, I mean, you when you come inside of the company, it's time for you to step up and actually follow those core values that we have. Like when we have so many different culture, which are like radically different from each other, like let's say like Asian cultures, European culture. So I mean, these cultures are so different. I mean, we have to cater to the differences, nuances of all these cultures. It would actually be pretty difficult. And I would say that, I mean, even if you are from a certain nation, it doesn't mean that you have to act like that, because what usually happens is that when you are exposed to a different type of culture, maybe only at your workplace, you are expected to behave in a certain way and so on. I mean, it will, you basically have a choice. Either you leave the place because that's not the way that you want to behave, or then you actually start changing your own behavior, which is typically what people do in terms of like when they work for international. Yeah, so okay, let's talk about this feedback. They have this 4A guidelines. So point is that, I mean, yeah, you are aim to assist in terms of giving feedback, and it needs to be actionable. I mean, absolutely. I mean, not to be defensive. Instead, like be appreciative only when you're receiving feedback, because it's so easy to become defensive, like especially like when you get like why questions, like why did you do this, why is it done like that, why is it done like this, and why it's not done like this way. So it's so easy for us to be that, like, how dare you ask how dare you ask me like in such a way. But instead we should be like more focused on the output and getting the best that we can actually do. And even if someone gives you feedback, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's right, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that should be done. So you might actually say that the feedback you just got, that no, well, I mean, I appreciate it, but I mean, it's not something that I'm gonna do. Two different types of school here, or like two paths, I would say. Like, and it really comes down to how complex the work is. Because let's say something pretty simple like frying burgers, like McDonald's or something. Like, why is McDonald's such why is it so easy to use in terms of the work, labor, and stuff like that? Like to set up this um, McDonald's franchise that you can just have like hire teenagers to run the whole business for you. It's because they have, I mean, dialed down all these systems and processes, and every person has these specific steps they should do. And as we can see, it works well for that type of businesses. Or then the other like end of the spectrum is that we are talking about like, let's say, building something totally new or something complex. Then typically it's going to be that it's going to start with this lean startup team where everyone is really highly skilled and they have like high competence, and then they basically have the freedom to do, like each one of them has the freedom to do whatever they want, because I mean they have the best knowledge for the context. But it starts with the small teams. So like, obviously when there's like more and more people, then usually there's certain things that need to be applied, like certain control and policies. But obviously, we don't want to have control just for the sake of it. The point is just to, the point is to get the best possible output, right? So one thing that Netflix is doing is that, they have these, they are trying to like remove all these control policies, which means that like people are allowed to spend like money on certain things and stuff like, and for example, vacation policies were something that, you can take vacation when you want, but when there's peer pressure, then it changes your behavior, because let's say that, okay, I'm working at Netflix and I want to go to a vacation next week and take a few weeks off because I feel like I deserve it. But obviously, like, if it's going to hurt the rest of the team or the department or whatever the company, then it's not something that you want to be doing. And then what they do is also they want to find the top talent and offer the top pay. But yeah, that's kind of common sense. But like, if you just, when we are starting out, it's not something that we are necessarily able to do. Like when we are just starting to build the cash flow, or we have been running the business for a few years, but it's not at that stage yet where we could actually hire the best talent and hire and so on. But then it comes down to us to really build the kind of company culture that is able to get maximum out of the people that we have. And like I mentioned before also, I would actually rather have a team of C players, as long as their mindset is right, and then I would just build them up to as A players, instead of taking like one superstar A player who has difficult mindset and is difficult to work with and so on. And transparent bookkeeping, absolutely. People should know the expenses and how much the team is making, how much the company is making, how much certain products are making, and how much are they losing, especially the expenses. Like, because if people don't know, then why would they care that, yeah, I mean, this tool over here, it's costing a few $1,000 every single month and nobody's using it. But I mean, obviously, I mean, people will not take action in cutting down the cost if they don't know about the costs. So that's why we have these different spreadsheets where we basically make visible for the team that what are all the different expenses and what are all the different income coming and so on. And yeah, I mean, number 7 that they have is that remove high authority approval. So it comes back down to control and yeah, I mean, keeping talented employees. So the question that they ask is that if they told me they were leaving for a similar job at a competitor or peer company, would I fight hard to keep them? So that's kind of the way they approach this hiring and assessing their current people that are these really the people that I want to have? Are these really the top talents that I want to have? And obviously, if you answer this question that nah, I wouldn't hire, I wouldn't fight hard to keep them, then I mean it's not a matter of like having a top talent.